A warm welcome to all of you. By this class, we will finish the details regarding malicious software, and then we move on to our next part of first module, that means attacks, different types of attacks. As we have seen already, Trojan horse, it is one of the dangerous malicious software that may attack our computer system. As we have said already, this Trojan name came from Greek epics or mythology, which describes the war between Greek and Troy. As you know, this Greek could not conquer Troy people even after war lasting for many days. Finally, these Greek people, they found a new way. That means they wanted to cheat Troy people and then thus conquer the Troy uh, with the help of uh, a wooden horse they have made, namely Trojan. So the Greek people, they pretended to be sailing away from Troy. That means they are going to withdraw from the war with the Troy people. They pretended to be doing so, and then this Greek people, as a gift, they presented a wooden horse which contains many 20 to 30 Greek warriors or soldiers inside. They concealed them inside this wooden horse. Those soldiers were hidden. They were trying to come out of the wooden horse. Once this wooden horse is inside the fort of Troy, thus the Greek people gifted this wooden horse to the Troy people and they sailed away. But actually, they didn't sail away. They were hidden near to the fort of these Troy people. But these Troy people, they thought that actually these Greek people went away. They had withdrawn from this war, and they accepted this gift from Greek people, this wooden horse, and they took that wooden horse into their fort. And what happened at night? This Greek soldiers hidden inside this wooden horse, they came out of the wooden horse at night, and they opened the gate of the fort for Greek soldiers hidden outside the fort. They all of them entered into the fort and they killed every person of Troy. Thus they conquered the Troy. That is the story of Trojan War. And any such attacks are then began to known as Trojan. So a similar attack in computer systems or in cyber world is also called as Trojan or Trojan horse attack, in which a unsuspicious program or a legitimate program or a genuine program contains many malicious codes. So on downloading or on seeing this horse program, no user can identify the presence of a malicious software inside. One or more malicious software may be concealed inside this Trojan horse program. So users, by thinking that it's a genuine program or a legitimate program, they download and they install or they execute whatever the Trojan horse is intended for. Thus, this malicious software hidden inside this Trojan horse will get invoked and they start their work. So, all these things will be functioning without the awareness of the user. User will be completely unaware of all these activities happening behind. They think that this genuine program is working properly. I have installed that only. I am executing that program alone, and I am getting the result too. But in the background, this malicious code, it does it job in a very fine manner. Okay, so most probably the creator of this Trojan horse program, they actually want to normally steal the data of the user. Uh, a remote user or a creator as a remote user will steal all the vital information from the computer of the infected user without informing, without getting any trace of this attack to that user. Now, this Trojan host program can be used to accomplish functions indirectly that an unauthorized user could not accomplish directly. It does actually what the Trojan warriors, that means the hidden soldiers of the Greek inside this Trojan horse, did whenever the favorable time came, that means at night, they came out of the Trojan horse and they opened the gate for soldiers, their Greek soldiers waiting outside. In the same manner, this malicious software concealed inside this wooden horse will come out of this Trojan horse program whenever favorable time comes, and it opens a pathway for other malicious software to unleash their attack. So there is another thing, and this Trojan horse program, they will make necessary changes for other users to conduct attack. That means suppose that if one file is created by an admin user and which is intended to be executed only by the administrator user, but if the Trojan horse attack that file, it can change the permissions of that file. That means it can make that file being executed by any user of that system. Such kind of attack also can be done by the Trojan horse program. That means stealing of data is one of the main aim of these Trojan horse programs, and another main goal is to open up the pathway for others to conduct the attack. That means by changing the permission of the file, etc. So the author could then induce users to run the program by placing it in a common directory and naming it such that it appears to be a useful utility program or application. This kind of attack is more dangerous when a particular file is shared in a network also. So that file may be restricted for a certain people of a certain kind of users only, but when this Trojan attacks, it may open this file for everyone in that network. So that one is a breach of security. It will result in a tragic situation. An example of a Trojan horse program that would be difficult to detect is a compiler that has been modified to insert additional code into certain programs as they are compiled, such as a system login program. We know that our Windows and Linux operating systems have their own login methods, you mostly using a username and a password. So only upon knowing the username and password of a critical user, that means administrative user, one can enter into that particular login and do all the um, work inside it. That means an administrator will be given more rights on a particular system. He can do almost every action in a system. He can do everything with the computer system. All other users will be restricted from doing all these administrative tasks. But if we have a Trojan horse program that creates some modification on this login program of Windows or Linux, most probably Linux OS is uh, very uh, they are not prone to virus attacks. Anyway, in Windows, these kinds of attacks are very common. So, if such a Trojan horse program exists in our OS, and if it does changes this code of a login program, then it can steal the credentials of admin user, that means username and password of an administrative user, and it can make any other user as an administrative user, and others users will be easily finding a way into the system as an administrative user and making all the nasty jobs. The code creates a backdoor in the login program that permits the author to log on to the system using a special password. This Trojan horse can never be discovered by reading the source code of the login program. So there will be a small change in the actual login program. The presence of such a Trojan horse will be almost undetected by all the security systems in place. Another common motivation for the Trojan horse is a data destruction. So, in addition to the data stealing, another attack that a Trojan horse unleashes is for data destruction. So, first one could be a passive attack. That means they are just stealing the information from um, the user's computer and handing over that one to the creator or any user intended for it. And second one is kind of attack which destructs everything in our computer systems. So which one is most dangerous is a debatable one, whether a thief or a killer is more dangerous. Such a debate exists here in the case of a Trojan horse. Uh, why? Because stealing of data, whether stealing of data is more critical or destruction of a computer system is more critical. That's a debatable thing. Anyway, the user has to suffer. Okay. The program appears to be performing a useful function, but it may also be quietly deleting the user's files. So Trojan horse always works in this manner. It pretends to be a genuine program. User thinks that everything is fine with that Trojan horse program. He thinks it as a genuine program, and he does all the activities with that program. But in the background, this Trojan horse mm, opens up the malicious code inside it, and it does it work fine. So these Trojan horses fit into one of the three models. There are three models existing in a Trojan horse group. First one is continuing to perform the function of an original program and additionally perform a separate malicious activity. As we know, stealing of data or destruction of data, all these are performed by a Trojan horse program which is concealed inside a genuinely looking program. So that program will be continuing its function in normal mode, and in addition to that, malicious software hidden inside will be doing its duty also. Second one is continuing to perform the function of the original program but modifying the function to perform malicious activity. That means we have already seen that this Trojan horse, especially designed to modify the login program of an operating system, is coming under this category. Why? Because uh, not only it is hidden inside this actual program, but it tries to modify the program where it is hidden also, thus getting access, this administrative access into the operating system with the help of this modified program or the stolen username and password. And third one is performing a malicious function that completely replaces the function of the original program. So third one, a Trojan horse, that program itself is a malicious code, and it itself, the original program will be completely replaced by the Trojan horse. First one is the first model tells that this Trojan horse program works separately. It does not do anything with the house program. But in the second program, the Trojan horse malicious software, it does some alteration on the host program, and the third one, it completely changes the host program to become a malicious software. So these are the three main models coming under this category of Trojan horse attacks. And now comes the story behind this name of the attack. As we have already seen it, we are not going to explain it again. Now we move on to another kind of malicious software, namely spyware. From the name itself, you can understand that it's a spying software, as a normal human spy does. This spy also tries to steal the information from a host computer. Unlike the uh, Trojan horse, it works independently. It does not need a host program or a genuine program to hide itself. So, a software installed on users' computer without their knowledge that record personal information from the source computer and sends it to the destination computer. So, similar to Trojan horse program, it does steal the information and pass that information to the remote user, but they are not hidden inside a genuine program or a legitimate program. They are working independently, but most probably they would be hidden from the eyes of the user or security system of the user's computer. So a spyware program sends information from the infected computer to the person who initiated the spyware. This information could be confidential financial data, password, pins, everything we store, all the confidential information we store in the computer system would be under threat once the spyware has come into your computer system. You need to make sure users understand that this information collection is possible and spyware programs can register each keystroke entered. So any kind of malicious software that steal the information from the user's computer can be termed as spyware. And next, the least powerful or least dangerous type of malicious software is adware. As we have seen already, this adware, it appears in our browser. They, as the name implies, they displays many advertisements upon opening a website or so. Usually they record our activities in a web browser, and depending upon our activities, that means which type of information we are searching, depending upon that they display this advertisements accordingly. And the advertisements may be genuine or it may be harmful, but anyway, this is the mode of working of adware. So both adware and spyware programs can be installed without users being aware of their presence. So we need not have to install this adware inside our web browser whenever whenever we visit one site which contains this adware. It will automatically install it in our web browser. So whenever we open our web browser, it will display the messages or the advertisements inside the web browser. And most probably without opening the web browser also you can see some kind of advertisements getting popping out in our computer itself. All these are different kinds of adwares, those software which um, does display the advertisements without our permission can be termed as adware, and they usually work with web browsers. So hardware, however, sometimes displays a banner that notifies users of its presence. Unlike the spyware, spyware works without giving any um trace of its presence to the user. But in the adware, we can see that some malicious software has been installed. That means adwares are installed in our web browser that we can detect by seeing advertisement displayed by this adware. So its main purpose is to determine a user's purchasing habits so that web browsers can display advertisements tailored to this user. You might have experienced this many times, as currently uh, purchase from online website is very common. The biggest problem with adware is that it slows down the computer it's running on. We know that if we are searching for something, whenever the ad comes, it surely slows down your searching operation. Uh, Sometimes only after clicking on the close button or something on this advertisement you can go to the actual website you are searching for. So that's all about this adware. Now in the next class we will see all the kinds of common attacks in the cyber world in more detail, and we will summarize this section of malicious software with the last heading, protecting against malware attacks. What are the countermeasures we can take in order to get rid of this malicious software to a certain extent. First one is educate users. The users of the computer system should be given a good kind of awareness about all these kinds of malicious software. That means containing structured training of all employees and management. So every user of the computer must be aware of all these kinds of attacks. What are the ways by which they enter into our system, and upon entering on the system, how we can detect its presence. On detecting its presence, what remedial measure we should take. All these things should be passed to the all the employees and management people of the organization well in advance. And second one, update antivirus software periodically. As I have said already, viruses are getting changed on daily basis, we can say. Why? Because the changes in cyber world is so quick. So daily there are changes happening to anything in the cyber world. Same happens to the virus or the malicious software too. They produce different versions of the malicious software periodically or frequently So in order to cope up with the changed or the modified version of the malicious software, our antivirus software must be updated periodically. And third one is use spyware or hardware removal programs. So unwanted um, softwares which stick onto our browser or a computer automatically should be blocked from doing so. So this adware or spyware removal programs must be installed properly in our computer system. And last one, install firewalls to protect the network. That is one of the most useful way of protecting our system against malicious software attacks. Purchasing a hardware firewall is giving us more advantage, and software firewalls also are good, but having a good hardware hardware firewall installed in our organization will give a upper hand in preventing the attacks from malicious software attacks. So by this we wind up the session of malware software, types of malware software, and the next class we move on to different types of attacks that may happen on our system.